Hello, this is Diana Olenik, the host of the Alkimia Success Show. Today we have an amazing woman again. Her name is Janis Isaman, and she is the founder of My Body Couture. She's also a speaker, a health coach, she's a mom, and she is here today to show us the importance of a healthy living. With all her expertise, for sure she's gonna enlighten us about how we can apply all of these principles in our life and how we can make our businesses and life better. Thank you very much, Janice, for being here today. And please let us know how your amazing journey got started.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. So I started my business after a career in fashion media. And I started my business without knowing that I was starting my business. I had a personal passion for health and fitness that actually came from a running injury. And I discovered that I really loved Pilates because I went to see a whole bunch of different practitioners to try to fix my knee, and nobody could fix it. So this was a couple of decades ago. And I walked into a Pilates studio, which at that time was largely filled with dancers. And I looked at this equipment and all of these beautiful, elegant movements and just knew that I was somewhere really different. It was a totally different way to work on fitness, work on health. And I just immediately fell in love with it. So I wanted to continue exploring that, even though I went down a different career pathway. 10 years after I started Pilates, I decided to take my teacher training, and I did that while I was still working my job. My life took me all the way to New York City, and I had an amazing job. I loved my job, and in my part-time, my spare time, I would continue to take trainings. I continued to meet people in the industry. I would buy equipment. And slowly but surely, I was investing in a whole other career, but it was a hobby to me. Then I ended up having a baby, and my life changed quite significantly at that point. At that point, it no longer made sense to have a media career that required a lot of evening networking and required a different lifestyle than I was able to have as a mom. So I made the full-time career switch, and that was about 6 years of part-time instructing, etc. So I already had experience. I already knew that I had the passion. I already knew how to work with clients, and I already had all the equipment and certification. So it was a natural segue to doing this business full-time.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I feel totally related there in that aspect, which I think that happens to many of us women when we are faced with this transition in our lives of becoming mothers. And it's interesting how it before that we don't, like foresee all of these changes that could come ahead. But when we are faced, we're like, how can I change my career in a way where I can be a mom and I can be a professional too, right?
It's true. I really did not see my life changing. And I think that's quite a common feeling, because we know what we know. We have our routines, we have our friends, we have our life. And there is something that we're given in culture, at least in North America, that says, don't let a child change your life, that we are supposed to be the boss, the master, etc. And so it feels like you would be giving in to the child if you even planned that in advance. But that's not what happens.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the priorities are different. Your time is different. Your energy is different. Your body is different.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
desires that you have in terms of what actually fits your life is just different. I found that I really wanted to work more on giving back. I wanted to have a job where I'm so lucky. I mean, I work only with people who want to be working with me. I work with people on empowering and improving their life, and everybody's happy. And that's such an amazing place to be. So I don't go to work from the position of, oh boy, it's Monday again. I have never once had a day where I just would rather not be there or not be working with that specific client. And that element became increasingly important to me. And I did love my previous career, but it was just a very different kind of person. It was a different pace to life. And I didn't really see how things were going to change the way that they did after I had my child.
So did you miss anything from your past life when you had the baby, or you didn't feel actually like missing any of that?
That's a good question. People ask me that all the time because I moved away from New York City. And so that question would come up all the time. I moved, and within a short time, I had a bricks and mortar space. So I had a commercial space to decorate, to build that clientele. And it wasn't really focused on missing my old life, especially because in my case, I had changed countries, I changed cities, I changed jobs, I changed careers. Obviously left my social network. There was a lot going on. So it wasn't like I was coming home at night thinking, oh, wow, I miss this or I miss that. Everything changed. And so I think in some ways it took me 4 or 5 years to kind of catch up and look at those elements of life that had actually changed.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I find also like wonderful is how like getting into those fields of as a career that give you also a lot of satisfaction in your own spirit, in your own self, and doing something that is healthy in helping people in that sense. So that must be a good source for you to wake up every day and do it without feeling it as a job, as I understand. Right?
It's extremely personally fulfilling.
Yes,
because
that's
I
awesome.
get a lot of customer feedback and testimonials of how I have impacted or how I've helped change people's lives quite literally. And that makes me feel great. It motivates me. It makes me feel connected to why I'm actually here on this planet.
Yeah, your business that is body couture, in my understanding, is like a studio where people can go and obtain these trainings, specialized trainings from you. Or you also have options that are online. Is that correct?
I do. So I started online training a couple of years ago. The challenge with it a couple of years ago was I offered it, but a lot of clients were really uncomfortable with it. So during the pandemic, there was a massive shift where suddenly, en masse, we as a culture became, and as a globe, quite honestly, became quite comfortable with Zoom calls, FaceTime calls, and everything happening on
all of us.
All of us. So a couple of years ago, I have online group trainings. So you can do the work with me on FaceTime, on Zoom, but you can also do it in a group setting where I'm offering it on Facebook or on Zoom. Those actually successfully ran concurrently from 2018. But the private work that I'm able to do now is just astonishing because I have clients in Miami and Vancouver and California. I have clients all over the place because the work that I do is specialized. And now I'm able to connect with customers who recognize that they need or want this work. And we can do it at a distance and they get amazing results. It's super exciting.
That's awesome. How you were able to start getting those clients from other parts of the world? That I feel that is interesting because many people who could be listening to the podcast would be wondering, how can I globalize my brand and my business when I come from a regular standard brick and mortar business?
Yes.
So what would be the strategy there, the advice?
Well, I had a leg up because I've lived in 7 different cities. So
you got connections there.
I already had networks. Yes. But as I already mentioned, I started online work 2 years ago. So although the private business had a bit of speed bump, the group business never did. So having even one advocate in any market and encouraging those clients to share that with friends means that that bubble expands. So that is a big piece, is consistency with staying online, keeping that presence there, having that steadfast, steady, we have this offering, we have this offering, we have this offering. Because the first time you put it out, maybe that initial offering sells quite a few, but there might be times when you don't have a full program or people maybe aren't signing up in the volumes that you want. Continuing to offer the program, continuing the messaging, continuing to promote it on social media, using hashtags, building your social media presence, and just being steady, even if it doesn't seem like the result is there, is what turns business over time. So I think it's, that's just advice for any business where if we have bricks and mortars, we all have those quarters or those months that maybe kind of go up and down. Online is actually no different. And so just continuing to message, continuing to offer, continuing to be there eventually turns into clients.
That's awesome. So speaking from that satisfaction point of view that you find with your business, seeing those results, seeing the clients, how do you or what would be one of the best experiences that you could share with us that you've had with a client? What is something that maybe help you shift your business in another way as a result of experience with a client, or enlightening a moment that a client helped you to get? Do you have any of those experiences to share?
That is a great question. This answer goes back many years when I was closer to the beginning than where I am now. I already mentioned that I had a strong passion for Pilates, and that's why I got into this line of work. I added another training, a second training for a modality called Yamana body rolling. It uses a series of balls to help open up the body. So it's kind of like a mechanical yoga where we're trying to get mobility at our joints. And I had done my training and was working with some private clients, and I had a young woman come to see me who had had a childhood cancer. And she wanted to come see me 2 times a week because she had a disease called avicular necrosis, which means that the blood vessels at the joints are not doing what they should. They're not supplying the joint with blood. So she'd already had both of her hips replaced, and the doctor told her she needed both of her shoulders replaced on top of that. And she wasn't very old. So she started working with me, and I combined Yamana body rolling and Pilates, and we worked together twice a week for 2 years. So this wasn't a short process, but she eventually moved, and the week that she left my practice, she told me that the doctor had cleared her. She would never need this surgery that she had been initially told just 2 years prior that she needed her shoulders replaced. And he said, nope, this is not necessary anymore. And not only that, but the last steroid injection that she'd ever had in her shoulders was the week that she came to see me. At that point, I realized the power of the combination of work that I could give to clients to literally change their lives. So she was able to completely avoid a surgical procedure and get healthy from the inside out, and her body healed itself. And that, even telling that story still gives me goosebumps because it changed the trajectory of my life, period. Where I realized that this work was more than just exercise. It was more than fitness. It was problem solving, and that this changes people forever.
Yes, it's very rewarding. Yes, I can see that. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So what are some of the myths that are outside in terms of the practice that you make, or in terms of health in general? Some of the myths that you understand that are there that you know that is not true.
Oh, there's so many. So in the fitness world, we are literally bombarded day in
Yes.
and day out with, you have to do this and you must do that and this has to
Mhm.
happen and that has to happen. And I see that clients get really confused
Yeah.
because there is so much science, and a lot of the science is actually helpful, but it's not the starting point. I tend to work with a lot of entrepreneurs and type A folks, but that's because they recognize that at some point their body is holding them back from accomplishing their life
Yes.
goals.
Mhm.
What triggers most people to come and see me for privates is that their neck hurts, their back hurts, their shoulder hurts, their wrist hurts, their knee hurts, their hip hurts, whatever it is. And they have certain things that they want to do in their life, but they will often stand there and actually share some of those myths. And many of them that I've heard include, I have to run to be healthy. No, you don't. I have to walk 10,000 steps. That's an arbitrary number. Some people actually need to walk more than that. Some people need to walk less than that.
Yes.
That number actually came from Japan in the 1960s, and they created a wristband that would count steps. It only went up to 9,999 steps. And so it became 10 years ago that we all had to walk 10,000 steps. Health research actually doesn't back that. We actually are supposed to be walking more than that, but a lot of people just have that really stuck in their head that this is what we're supposed to do. One that drives me crazy is we have to drink 8 glasses of water. That came from an old health textbook. It was one sentence buried in the back. And now I get clients that stand in front of me and they tell me that they've got elastic bands around their wrists that they're snapping to try to remind them. Well,
wow.
when it comes to water, if you're eating very hydrating foods, so for example, if you're a vegetarian and you're consuming, it's summertime right now, so if you're consuming salads that have blueberries and other watery things in them, maybe you don't need to be consuming a ton of water. So I often feel like people get stuck on those short little things instead of looking at the more global picture of, I want to be healthy I've heard a lot of different things. There's people that want to go and work in their garden. There's people that want to cycle. There's people that want to simply be able to move without pain. There's people who want to be athletic. So when we look at kind of those, you have to drink 8 glasses of water, you have to walk 10,000 steps. It depends actually on what someone wants in their life. But we get stuck on those kind of Instagram meme moments, which might not even have a correlation to your life. But also, if you're a 6'4" man versus a 5'2" woman, maybe our bodies don't actually need the same thing.
Yeah. And the body is absolutely smart. The body itself is going to feel the need to drink the water that needs.
That's right. That's right. That's part of why that one in particular drives me crazy, because I've heard it said, well, by the time you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. I'm sorry, but the body actually gives you signals that you are either hungry or thirsty. And if it was really that delicate where you're already dehydrated and close to dying by the time you feel that in your throat, we would not survive. We would be dead as a human species at this point.
It's interesting the amount of things that we create, right? All the complexities that we create when all of these biological systems actually, while we are having this conversation, is working by itself, the body, without me thinking in how all the systems are working inside, is doing it. So we create so many things that prevent us sometimes to take action because of just myths.
It's almost like a cluttered house for a lot of people, where we have all of these things, and if I filled my house with too many things, I wouldn't be able to move, I wouldn't be organized, I would spend all my time cleaning, and I would be really overwhelmed. And in the health and fitness arena, that is actually where we have come. We have told people not to eat carbs and to eat I've seen people that are macro counting now, and we're not even doing the basics. I had a client who told me that he didn't eat carrots because they had too many carbs. But then when I probed a bit further, I found out that he was eating potato chips as a snack. And I was like, okay, so you're not going to eat the vegetable, but you're eating potato chips. And he had never stepped back to think about that, because at one point he and his wife had done the Atkins diet, and the Atkins diet book said carrots are high in carbs, don't eat them. Well, that becomes part of the clutter in the house. And eventually our brains almost get paralyzed by walk 10,000 steps, drink 8 glasses of water, count your macros, don't eat the carrots, to the point where we're not doing the basic exercise. We're not eating that normal, healthy, sustainable diet, because we're just in this house filled with memes that are cluttering up our brain and almost getting in the way of what's logical, rational, and sustainable.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's nice. Speaking about foods, are you a vegetarian or vegan? I understand that. And if that is so, how did you get into that and habit, of eating this type of foods, and why?
I am. And in my nutrition practice, I don't necessarily recommend that, because for some people, interestingly, my own offspring, it doesn't fit well with his body. But I got into that because as a child, I didn't like meat. I remember having a ton of arguments with my mom about what was on the dinner plate. And I grew up on a farm in Alberta where the dinner plate is meat, potatoes, and one vegetable.
Yeah.
And I always really liked potatoes. I'm sure I always ate those. I'm not too sure about the vegetables, but we had many a conversation and argument about that meat on my plate. I never liked it. It was hard to digest. And I remember for sure getting served liver on top of my Cheerios one morning, because my parents got to the place where they said, if you don't eat that now, you're eating it in the morning. So meat was not something that ever really meshed well with my personal constitution. So when I was 17 and I went to university, the first thing that left my life was red meat. And I was so relieved to just not have to eat it anymore. And over the course of the next couple of years, I actually transitioned fish. Not that, I grew up in landlocked Alberta. I never ate a lot of fish, but that exited, and so did the chicken. And I have been a vegetarian ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So do you feel, like the benefits in your body, or how is your experience with that?
In my own body, I think what vegetarianism does, and does very well, is encourages the consumption of vegetables, because that's what we're eating. Yes. And it also encourages the balance in your life. There certainly can be imbalanced vegetarians. When I first became a vegetarian, I didn't really have a lot of education. As already mentioned, I was living in Alberta, where until very recently, when you went out to eat, the options as a vegetarian were pizza, pasta, and salad. And eventually I got very tired of salad. So I ate a lot of pizza and pasta. And I noticed very quickly that I didn't feel great. Yeah. So I think that vegetarianism also really does force you to actually pay attention to those balance. And if I eat too many processed foods, I feel disgusting very fast. And so just noticing what my protein levels are, noticing what my vegetable intake is. And it's almost like a self-correcting system, because the body can get out of balance. And so I feel like I've really appreciated being vegetarian, and I've had periods of veganism because milk and uncooked eggs do not sit well in my body either. But I really have appreciated it, because I think that long-term that has helped me with a healthy body weight, and that vegetable and fruit intake that is so important to our longevity. Yeah. So in the world of dietary options, the only thing that every nutrition practitioner agrees on, the only thing, and always has, is you have to eat more vegetables. Yes. So as a vegetarian, that's built in.
Yeah, it's I totally feel related, because I can see the difference in my body, in the way that I felt. when I was during that time, consuming these meats, and how without even doing a lot of, like heavy exercise as I used to do, the bodybuilding and stuff, using a lot of weight, and how light the body feels
Yes.
without that much effort, and how even my mind became a little bit more clear, like more focused, more. I could see the difference. Also, the life changes in many ways, and maybe there are other factors there. But speaking about the food, I can see how the benefits in my own experience are compounded in feeling more, younger and more
Yeah.
energized, and yes, with more. It's different. I just can't say that it's different. Yes, that's
I know
awesome.
even when I eat a lot of cheese, it
Mhm.
is a very different process of digestion. So if I'm going
Yes.
to eat a ton of vegetables,
Yeah.
even if I'm very, very full, it passes through the body quite quickly. Whereas heavier protein foods for me actually give me that heaviness, and
Yes.
it's very slow to digest. And I
Mhm.
had almost forgotten about that, but I recently had a very cheesy experience, and I was tired. I found it very difficult to digest, and so that's me and my body. I don't know
Mhm.
if everybody's body is the same, but I have
Yeah.
the same experience as you. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes. So as a health coach, what, like in the entrepreneurial world, business owners find themselves, because they have so many responsibilities, they find themselves always, in general, very busy, a lot
Yes.
of stress, a lot of stuff going on in their lives, and also having to attend family and business and everything. So what would you say to someone that is maybe going through that situation, that when you're so caught up with the day to day, that you feel that you don't have enough time,
Absolutely.
and that you don't find a way to actually, everybody knows that it's healthy, everybody knows that we like to have more a vibrant life, and exercise is a good part of that, but we just don't know how to do it. What would you say to
That's
an entrepreneur that is facing that type of belief?
my professional answer is this needs to be part of your life, and it needs to be a
Mm-hmm.
non-negotiable. My personal
Yes.
answer is I too went through an experience where I actually set aside exercise
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like I didn't have time.
Yeah.
I would look at my calendar and my family life and think, there is no place. I will have to get it through demonstrating at work or whatever.
Yes.
What happens, it's not in a week, it's maybe not in a month, but through the accumulation of a few months or longer, that stress builds up in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Those emotions build up in your body. Your body becomes really compressed because you have stress, and because you're sitting a lot, and because you're using your phone a lot. Everything gets really, really tight.
Yeah.
And we lose strength, we lose coordination, we lose everything that our body is actually meant to do. There is no time in history when human beings sat down for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what most of us are doing now.
Yeah.
And even with a more active job, which I stand to work when I'm with clients, I just noticed that I wasn't coping with those stresses of life very well. I was always overwhelmed. My memory was impacted. I actually started getting sick a lot. And then you're compounding problems because you're sick and you don't feel well, and you're trying to focus and you're trying to build business. So, not prioritizing that, honestly, is the same as not prioritizing sleep. If we think, as I used to,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have more hours in the day to get more done if I just cut into my sleep. We do that for weeks and months, and all of a sudden your brain is not as sharp. You're just not present in that same way.
Yeah.
So cutting out that health element is something that I personally did, even as a movement specialist and health coach, because I thought I didn't have time. And I just couldn't take the same feedback from clients. I couldn't connect with clients the same way. I couldn't connect with my son. My house was messier. Everything was just not right.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking that hour a day to, whether it's high intensity, low intensity, medium intensity, whether it has weights or doesn't have weights, none of those details matter. Doing something for yourself where you're moving your body, whether it's a formal program or whether you're just taking a walk or riding your bike, literally changes your performance at work, period.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I like that answer because it comes from your own experience too. Understanding from a business, like the challenges that a small business owners go through, that you have yourself experience, and also from this point of view of the benefits that is actually gonna bring. We think that we're being more efficient when we cut things that we feel that we can make aside, but actually we're becoming inefficient because we cannot we cannot perform well in the long run.
That's right.
Yes, that's awesome.
Right. And I also think when we look at our schedules and we really get down to the brass tacks of it, many of us have the idea that we have no spare time. But if we, let's be honest, looked at our FaceTime, our Instagram, our television, and that could be literal television or it could be Amazon Prime or Netflix, there's probably a little carve out of time you can do. And one of the things that is efficient for a lot of people is something that's called temptation bundling. So it is things that we put together where one of the tasks might be something we don't really want to do and one of the tasks is something we really do want to do. That could be combining Facebook and riding a bike inside, of course. That could be combining watching Netflix with walking on a treadmill. So it's taking those two things, one of which is a bit indulgent and one of which we may feel we have no time for, and it's because we actually don't really want to do it, and putting them together. So we can carve out those little pockets quite often just by looking at our TV and social media consumption and combining it with exercise.
That's awesome. I like that advice. Thank you very much. So I can see how, like how you became so successful, or your insight, your experience, your studies. So awesome. And I feel so grateful for all that incredible value. What is your definition of success?
My personal definition of success is being able to write my own future. I work at a job right now and have crafted an entrepreneurial lifestyle where I can follow my passions and my interests. I can evolve the business with my clients, with my aging process, with my lifestyle choices, and with those lessons that I'm learning. I am a human, and I am a business owner, and I am a mother, which means that I'm having a very normal experience of life. And with that, I make mistakes. I have had moments, as I already explained, where sometimes I binge on the cheese. Sometimes maybe I'm not making time for exercise. And those become things that I can share with clients. I can build programs around mistakes that I've made or lessons I've learned or passions or interests or hobbies that I have. And really continue to share that knowledge and information with clients.
That's awesome. Thank you. And just to try to wrap up this, I like to ask you, what would be a phrase that would describe you?
What's a phrase that would describe me? I would say relentless.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can see how you have set, your own goals, your passions, your dreams, and you have worked towards them, and it has been flowing, on your behalf for getting that with the hard work that you've put into that, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. So what projects are you having right now in your business, or what is something interesting that you'd like to share with the audience?
I love the expansion and opportunities that are being created by the digital boom created by COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to continue to grow the digital piece of my business, continue to reach new customers throughout North America, throughout the world, and really connect with those people who want a different approach to their body, who want an alternative way to think about and interact with their health.
Yes. Yes, that's awesome. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to work with you? What are the ways that you can offer that help, like one-on-one, online, or how all of that works?
My business name is My Body Couture. That's 3 words. First word is my, M-Y. Second word is body, B-O-D-Y. The third word is couture, C-O-U-T-U-R-E.
Mm-hmm.
I am online at the .com, as well as on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. I'm also a writer for Elephant Journal, which you can find under my personal name. So you can follow me on any of those platforms. You can also reach out to me on any of those platforms. I'm a very small company, so I will be the one personally answering you. The services that I offer are privates and groups. The private packages are customized solutions for you and the particular problems that you want to solve. We come up with a sustainable health and or nutrition program to help get you on your way. If you want to do the group program, that is an online only package that is going to give you the fundamentals of what I incorporate and fold into those private sessions. So those are also quite amazing programs where you get so much information and you can do that in the privacy of your own home.
That's amazing. I can see that, expanding and expanding more. And I feel so grateful and so honored to have this conversation today with you, because the amount of value, your insight and your experience, it's absolutely a way to, and a resource to guide us into more, hope, and to align our beliefs or expectations that we have about how to have a healthy life, and how to incorporate this in our lives for the better of our businesses and our lives. So is there anything else that you wish I had asked you today, Janis?
No, I'm just happy that we had this amazing opportunity to connect.
Yes, that's awesome. Okay, so if that is all, then I'd like to thank everybody who is listening or watching this podcast, and invite them to rate and review the podcast, or subscribe if you are watching this through a visual channel. So thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next episode. Bye for now.